no subscribers. You came and you listened to Kirblog, but probably sent you away 'cause I was too busy talking about Dragon Ball. But I need you today, or else I'll alienate everybody who doesn't care about Dragon Ball, and I need to eat. So hi, welcome back. First of all, thank you everybody who, if you were, again, not a fan of DBZ, for suffering through my pretty much month solid worth of Kirblogs. It felt like it. I'm sure it wasn't a month solid, but of the 7 leading up to me going to the movie premiere and blah, blah, blah with Ben Diskin and all my very wonderful special guests. But we're back. This is back to the normal grind of doing usual 2 Kirblogs every week. I did decide that I'm going to have those little stupid musical interlude things in the beginning of every Kirblog, so I hope you like those and become used to them from here on out. Anyway, so I guess to start off with, first of all, I was going to make this weekend's Kirblog, the first one of us coming back, into the subject literally being, I'm going to vote for Ryu from Street Fighter for the Super Smash Bros. Ballot character voting thing, and here's a bunch of reasons as to why. And actually I almost recorded a live action video of me in like my karate gi talking about why, but I couldn't make myself beautiful looking enough so that you could suffer through watching it for 2 minutes or whatever. And it's kind of good that I didn't do that, because then, as it turned out a couple days ago, that leak happened, and now there's debate as to whether or not Ryu's going to actually be in the game or not, because of all the data people found or what the fuck ever. I don't know. So either way, I'm not doing that. I'm going to talk about something else. I'm just going to do one of the other normal topics that I've been sitting on. If you would like to go check out the DBZ Kirblogs that I did, I've made a little playlist of not only the 7 leading up to the movie, but also the other DBZ-related ones that I did before that, in a little collection together if you want to check those out. But anyway, moving on. So this question, for the first time in a while now, comes from Jacob Bernardi, basically asking about how do you move from being a fan artist, making OCs and fan fiction and fan art or whatever, to moving on to doing original work? How do you kind of make that transition, from building that sort of stuff to making things from the ground up? So before I get into the meat of this topic, and I will probably repeat some things from the following 2 other Kirblogs I'm going to suggest, but to you, Jacob, and to anybody else interested in this, I would recommend going back and listening to my original versus parody Kirblog, as well as old characters made new again from a couple months ago, because I think that those will definitely apply to what we're going to be talking about here today. So again, as many of you guys know, I started out, in terms of the stuff that I'm known for, like my animation work, I started out as a person who did a lot of fan cartoons, or parodies and things, the Nintendo collabs and Parody Rangers and Brawl Taunts and blah, 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 and even other stuff like the Mario RPG music video and Scott Pilgrim, the little ad thing that I did a while ago, all that stuff. So I did a lot of that for many years, and before that, I always wanted to do original stuff, and then finally, when I finished college and my thesis film and everything, I jumped into doing tome, and now I've been, mainly, if actually entirely focusing on doing original stuff in terms of what I produce and getting out there, and I've been just focusing on that, and I don't really have any plans of going back to doing parodies and things. But, that transition was definitely difficult, and I know I've talked about that a lot on, like, even not just the Kirblogs, but also like the tome commentaries and things about how it was definitely kind of an uphill battle from going from being known for doing fan stuff or parodies or just creations based on stuff that other people already created, and hollowing out a new kind of following for myself, or rather an updated one. And a lot of people that followed my work from before thankfully did carry over. But it was definitely, it took a long time to get to that point. And I'm, as always, I'm very thankful that people have, have followed my stuff all this way, or, newer folks that just know me for tome, etc. It is difficult. And I meet a lot of really talented artists who I don't even know if it's necessarily because they're pressured of, like, because the fact of the matter is that getting people to give a shit about your original stuff, especially on the internet, is extremely difficult, because it's way easier for people to just, like on YouTube, specifically, just click a video that's, oh, here's something about Five Nights at Freddy's, or, the flavor of the month or the year or whatever the fuck it is, and then just immediately gravitate towards that. And because of that, a lot of people focus on doing fan stuff based on whatever is, popular at that moment, or whatever they're really obsessed with as a fan at that time, etc. And what makes me sad about it is that a lot of those artists, writers, whatever, animators, who in many cases I'll flat out say are a lot more talented than I am, even a lot more. Like they never, I guess, kind of graduate to doing original stuff, and and sometimes they'll have the potential, or they'll have some original material, if they like their own characters in a story or whatever, but they're just like, no, I'm just going to keep making parodies, or I'm just going to keep doing fan art of this thing, or this game that I like, or this show that I like, or whatever. And then there's in some cases, there's people I see where like literally all they do is draw like fan art for this one thing, or sometimes it'll be even as basic as they draw fan art of one specific character from one specific thing, and that's all they ever draw ever in existence. And it'll be beautifully drawn or beautifully rendered or whatever, but it's like, that's it. And I'm like, dude, there's more to life than that. Those are pretty rare cases, the ones who are like that. But either way, I will say this, too, to kind of give the opposite side of this. I do think that fan art, fan productions, fan things like that, they do have a place in this world. And, Matt Wilson, who's a fantastic animator, go check his stuff out if you haven't seen his work before. He talks about how there's very, very few content creators on YouTube that, didn't already have a following of some kind from their parody work that they might have done beforehand, they carried over some people from like Newgrounds or something. I think Simon's Cat is like one of the only examples of this that, just it is what it is from the beginning. There was no other thing before that, and it just it took the fuck off like really impressively. So I think that it is definitely possible to again make that transition when you're doing a lot of stuff like that. But I think people kind of get like, again, they get scared, they get locked into something because they're just like they don't want to go outside of their comfort zone, or they're too they're too worried that people aren't going to like what it is that they have to say. There's something that they have personally, like all to themselves. It's not like, oh, this is my spin on this pre-existing thing. Like, no, this is a thing that came straight from my soul. You know what I mean? It can certainly be very intimidating. I mean, even, in my case, I had a little bit of that that original character, do not steal kind of thing going on, because I was paranoid about ever showing anything about Balancing Act, which is my oldest, IP ever, because I was worried, people are going to rip it off and people are going to steal my characters and my ideas or whatever. Nobody gives a shit. I was so disillusioned about that, of like, nobody wants to steal your ideas because everybody has their own ideas. If they are actually going out of their way to steal them, they're also never going to be able to execute them the same way that you really would anyway. So it's like, fuck it, it doesn't even matter, But either way, and then I've, of course, I did my film, I put it online, I've done Tome now for 3.5 years and all this other stuff, and it's really paid off. But and I don't think that I would have had the learning experiences and the stepping stones to where I am now were it not for doing the parody stuff that I did before. And there's some I can look back on and be like, I'm still pretty proud of how that turned out, or or not all of it is like, I made a mistake. It's like, no, it was all a learning experience. That's for me personally. Like, that was, all the things that I did leading up to before I did Tome, and even before I did my thesis film, which was the real kind of stuff that I wanted to do even before I touched Newgrounds and had the idea of doing fan stuff or whatever. I wanted to make original stuff since I was a kid, and get a TV show or a movie or make a game or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? And, but I think that it's because that I had those learning experiences in making fan stuff that I managed to really take off. And I'm not the only person. In fact, there are far more successful examples of people who came from the same point of origin on Newgrounds. Just that in and of itself. And then also, there are other people I know who are still doing fan stuff that I know full well want to move on to making original things, like the Team 4-Star guys and Martin Little Karibo and all them. And even I think about again the late great Monty Ohm and Ruby. I mean, before that with Dead Fantasy, and then the guys at Rooster Teeth that made Red vs. Blue. I mean, those were video game parodies and fan productions, and then they got together and made this original show built from the ground up that became wildly successful, and that's incredibly respectable. And I think that I would argue that they probably wouldn't have gotten to that point without all of the training and learning and experiences and finding out how this stuff, works in the first place, from doing all that fan stuff leading up to it, I talked more about that on the Kirblog I did recently about pushing the limit of internet entertainment and, trying to make real changes to, what people's perception are in terms of what you can do on the internet with animation and gaming and things like that. That's kind of a different subject. In terms of this specifically, though, what I would say is really what it comes down to is you have to study and you have to get really good at what it is that you do. Because I think that talent, more often than not, will rise to the surface, no matter how difficult the challenge may be. So I think if you work really hard and if you're making something that is genuinely good, eventually it will be recognized. You do have to play the game a little bit when it comes to internet shit. There's a whole lot to that, and it's kind of bullshit sometimes, and it's not always entirely fair, and there's a lot of stacked odds and everything, but it can ultimately be very, very worth it, and it can be very lucrative. And we live in an age now where you can make a living off of it. I've talked always, we live in an age where we can make whatever we want and put it out there, blah blah blah, whatever. But we also, in addition to that, we live in an age where we can live doing that, which is even better. So you don't have to be flipping burgers at McDonald's or whatever. But yeah, and there's nothing wrong with doing fan stuff at the interim. I mean, I've drawn fan art for things that I like. I did some Steven Universe drawings recently just because I love that show, and it was just inspired to do that. And I mean, even dating back to the Nintendo collabs, I mean, a lot of it was genuinely because part of it was, hey, video game parodies are getting me attention, and also I can make money doing this. I'm going to do Nintendo parodies, and that was kind of the continuation of it. But it started from hey, I love Nintendo characters. It would be really fun to write a bunch of silly, Robot Chicken style vignette cartoons about all these characters and all these games and stuff that I grew up with that I love so much. Reminds me of one time I asked a question to my friend Zach Bellissimo, a really talented artist. He works as a storyboard artist on Teen Titans Go right now. When I think when we were in college, because I think this is the time that I was really under heavy fire by a lot of the Newgrounds community for all the parody shit that I did at the time. And I was asking about okay, Zach, you love Betty Boop, right? If you had the opportunity, if you had access to the Betty Boop IP or something, and you were able to do, a reboot or a new movie or a show or something, whatever with that, would you do it? And he's like, yeah, but I wouldn't make it suck. I would make it really cool. And I'm like, yeah, that's always what the goal is, And I think that's in some ways kind of the mentality of oh, dude, I want to do this, this fan thing because I really love, insert blank or whatever. I mean, actually, another really crazy example that worked out incredibly well in a very different way was the new Ninja Turtles series on Nickelodeon. When they got the rights to that series, Sierra Neely, who is an amazing animation producer, he was a massive Ninja Turtles fan growing up for years, and he knew everything, every in and out of that franchise. And because of that, when he pitched this new idea for a Turtle series to Nick and they liked it, it just fucking rocketed off. And now it's in its third season. I think it's already got 2 more seasons confirmed by this point. So yeah, they're really trucking along with that, and it turned out amazingly. I would say it's one of the best interpretations of the Turtles world ever made. I could what even goes to me. I think it's the best animated show that Turtles has ever had. Period. Honestly, that's just me. But either way, yeah. But it's the same kind of thing of hey, his fandom paid off, and he managed to work that out, and it's fucking awesome. And I've thought about that. I think I talked about that in my how would I interpret other pre-existing cartoons before too. It is exciting. The prospect of that is super exciting. And you were asking Jacob about what if I did this Sonic game or this Zelda fan game or whatever. And a lot of people put a lot of focus into that. And I think that having that impulse and wanting to do it, it can be really powerful. And it comes from a positive place more often than not. It's not always if I leech off this pre-existing thing, I'll get super popular and make money or whatever. For some people, it is that. I wish it wasn't, but more often I find that it's just because they're big fans of it. Something I almost did, and I didn't really see the need for now, is I actually thought about doing I think the only time I ever considered doing something akin to a Let's Play was I wanted to do a dub of Super Mario RPG with myself and all my actor friends and just record all the dialogue or whatever. And I'm sure that would have done amazingly, but I just didn't want to take so much time away from doing the more important stuff and you're focusing on doing tome and everything would have taken so much time away. And I'm much more passionate about doing things that I own, that I, built from the ground up myself, as opposed to just, I'm going to do this fan thing based off of a thing that Nintendo made years ago. The nice sort of trade-off that I had with the music videos is that I got them done at interims, between school. And, they were sort of just like, this is a fun, quick, easy way that's not going to take away, a lot of my time and effort or whatever. Well, I put plenty of effort into both the Mario RPG music videos. But I'm saying is, like, they didn't take away from, they weren't, like, the goal. They was just like, hey, this is a quick way to, like, show what I'm capable of now, just, like, as an artist, in general. And I would do those. And, hey, you know what? Maybe someday I'll do another one. Who knows? I can't guarantee that, but, you never know. But either way, yeah, it's like there's the gratification, the sense of gratification that I personally get from stuff that I made myself 100%, as in like thought up. But no, even then that's debatable, because now I have people who have, like Liz, who have helped out tremendously with, the idea of making, and and now my crew who helped me execute those ideas and put them out there, and in a level of quality that I could never attain by myself completely. Of course not. So yeah, I mean, it takes people a while, I think, to get to that point. And sometimes they don't get to that point. Sometimes there are people who have a greater sense of satisfaction, like working on somebody else's project, or working on a project that has to do with something else that they're more passionate about, that somebody else made, etc. And I understand that. I've been trying to be a little bit more understanding to that sort of thing, but I guess it's mainly my frustration is when I see people who are just so amazingly talented at what they do, but all they care about is like, I'm just going to do fan stuff forever because, the gratification isn't there, like, or it's not there quick enough, or, it's not great enough, or anything. I don't know, any combination thereof, I guess. Sticking to your guns and, really powering through, like, okay, I'm going to make that, because I had to do this with Tom as well. It's like, okay, I have a plan, I'm going to make this thing, that I came up with myself, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to put 110% effort into this and really, make it as good as it can be. You have to be prepared for that, and you have to be prepared for, it's not always going to immediately work out. And sometimes it might not work out at all. I took a gamble when I did Tome. I had no fucking idea how well it was going to do. And, if you can just, like, really stick to that and be dedicated and continue to hone your craft at the same time, regardless of what it is, you can do really well for yourself. And I think that's what it has to come down to, is like, it needs to be a learning experience, just as much as, like, you're finding success or whatever. Like, if you're not learning while you're doing this stuff, no matter what it is, whether it's a fan thing or an original thing or whatever, then you're just becoming stagnant. And I don't think anybody wants to be that. If you want to be stagnant, then go away. The point in being a creative person or whatever, whatever you want to define that as, is you need to be constantly improving and pushing yourself and ascending to greater heights. And, I think that this particular subject is just one sort of aspect of that. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. And I hope that this was entertaining to everybody else. It's a little off the cuff as per the usual. I didn't have as much prepared for this one, but this week has been insanely fucking busy, and I'm kind of getting back into the swing of just doing, regular topics like these again. So, forgive me. But on that note, I'm very happy to say once again, thank you for listening to this one. And if you have ideas for future Kirblog topics, or thoughts about this particular topic here, please leave a comment. And you can also submit your ideas in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you want. And I think that's about it. And yeah, so thank you all for listening. We'll be back to the normal topics again. If you have not checked out Tome Episode 0 yet, my crew and I worked super, super hard on that. So please go check it out. I'll have a link in an annotation here if you want to go watch it. It's about 20 minutes, but it's a really cool little short film kind of episode of it. And yeah, if you've got any friends who haven't seen Tome yet, or if you haven't watched it yet, you might want to watch this one, because it might be kind of an interesting jumping on point to get into the show. And that'll do it for me. That'll do it for you, as far as you know. And I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.